Inside the stories that affect you. This is Inside KELOLAND.
Good evening, I'm Don Jorgensen. Thanks for joining us. Do we have a teleprompter? All right.
That affect Inside the stories that affect you. This is Inside KELOLAND.
Good evening, I'm Don Jorgensen. Thanks for joining us. Coming up this week on Inside KELOLAND, we're going to be focusing on your child's health and how several organizations are stepping up to help children in need. We're going to be talking with the Sioux Falls Area CASA program about its upcoming Red Cape fundraiser and how it's recognizing Child Abuse Awareness Month. Then we're going to preview the Rock the Rim event with the Trevors Legacy Foundation and how you can help children with a serious illness or injury. But first, April is Autism Awareness Month. We're sitting down with Lifescape to see how the stigma around autism has changed. Joining me now is Megan Jonke, the Director of the Outpatient Therapy Services. Thanks for being here on Inside KELOLAND. As you know, Mayor Paul Tenhaken has made a proclamation declaring the Autism Awareness Month in April. Talk a little bit about the progress that has been made when it comes to helping people understand autism.
Sure. Well, I think first is we're recognizing autism a lot more nationally. We see the numbers change year to year about how many are diagnosed with autism. And I think that's more of a reflection of our ability to identify it rather than an increase in how many cases there really are. Another big improvement in the state of South Dakota is access for applied behavior analysis, known as ABA therapy. ABA is delivered by board-certified behavior analysts and registered behavior technicians. And we still have some growth to do as far as access to those services, but there's been big improvement in the last 18 months or so, where private insurance and South Dakota Medicaid are covering ABA for children up to age 18.
And of course, ABA made headlines up at the South Dakota legislative session this year. Any other groundwork on that, getting some of those families covered?
Well, like I stated, South Dakota Medicaid does cover ABA therapy. So Lifescape is a Medicaid provider, and so we do offer ABA for families that have strictly Medicaid or Medicaid with a private insurance. We still have that growth to do to get access to ABA services for more families, either with those specific health plans that weren't covering it, or even for individuals without autism that can also benefit from ABA.
What is the key with ABA?
The key with ABA is a lot of it is the intensity of the services. Often families receive an average of anywhere from 6 to 30 hours a week working one-on-one the child with their therapist. Parent training is a huge component of that, as it is with all therapies, but again, those services, the parent training is often provided and covered by insurance.
And getting started early is key.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Yes. The earlier we can diagnose autism, the better. The access to early intervention services is key. We've screened children 18 months and younger for autism, and we've diagnosed a few children under age 2. It can be done. And so the earlier we can diagnose them, the earlier we can start seeing them intensively, and hopefully by the time they start kindergarten, they don't need any special services.
Yeah, talk about some of the success that you've seen, a child who may be nonverbal.
Sure. We've seen several kids, and not just with ABA, but with occupational therapy services and speech therapy services, who have, yes, started out nonverbal, and within weeks to a month are having some conversations with their families, saying, I love you, saying mom and dad, and things that the parents got used to thinking that they would never hear them say.
Wow, That's fantastic stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
Any idea how many children in South Dakota are affected with autism?
You know, that's hard to say. We still do some evaluations where families will come in, and it can be a shock that we diagnose them with autism. So there's probably many families out there that just haven't gotten that diagnosis. The rate as of 2018 was 1 in 56 children are diagnosed with autism.
And what do you think still we could do as a state or as a society to help families who have children with autism?
I think the access to the services is ideal. Remembering, yes, in our legislature, making the environment in South Dakota, having access to those services. I would say helping the community understand what struggles somebody might have that has autism. Employment is key, making sure that employers are giving adults with autism a chance for employment to be successful.
And I know Lifescape is opening its new Autism and Child Development Center soon. Tell us about that.
Yes, we are very excited. We should be opening within just the next couple of weeks. Just waiting on a few details to get ironed out. Services at that location will include our behavior therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, and clinical psychology. When we started behavior therapy at our current outpatient center, it was just over a year ago, and the program has grown quite a bit where we needed to expand, we needed more space to see more families. And so by branching part of those services off of our current outpatient center, we were able to really focus in on a group of younger kids, really up to teenage age, not just kids with autism though, any child with any kind of developmental concern or delay.
And when's it scheduled to open?
We don't have a final date quite yet, but we should be able to announce that very soon in the coming days.
Okay, Megan, thanks so much for being on Inside KELOLAND.
Thank you.
Now, coming up after the break, we are talking with the Trevors Legacy Foundation and its upcoming Rock the Rim event. Inside KELOLAND, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside KELOLAND. March is almost over, meaning that the basketball frenzy will soon be coming to an end. But there is one more event where you can enjoy a game on the court while supporting a good cause. Joining me now are Roxanne Vogelsang with Trevors Legacy and James and Corey Ireland. Thank you all for being here. Roxanne, before we talk about the event that's coming up, talk a little bit about Trevors Legacy.
Well, it was started to carry on the compassionate legacy of my son Trevor, who's killed in a car accident by a drunk driver, and to carry on his love for children. So what we do is we raise funds for children who are suffering from serious illness or accident. And, you know, insurance only goes so far. So we're there to kind of help with things that insurance may not cover, such as travel and lodging to and from treatments, daycare if there's other children, you know, if there's missed work, really anything that is incurred due to one of these life-changing events.
And tell us about Trevor.
He's a pretty amazing kid. He had a huge heart and huge spot for children, huge spot in his heart for children. And, you know, no matter where we were, where's Trevor? Well, he was on the carpet somewhere playing with kids, or even in Walmart, he was over trying to make a little kid smile, or that's just who Trevor was. That, and the other thing was basketball was in his hands 24/7.
He loved basketball.
Oh, yes, live, breathe, eat basketball.
And Rock the Rim is an event that you came up with and
Yes.
kind of to honor his memory.
Yes, I wanted to try to combine the two things that meant the most to him. So, and that was children and basketball. So we have an all-star high school basketball game. And then during each break, we have really great entertainment that comes out. We get great support from the NBA. We have a lot of guys from the NBA that come out with mascots, come out and put on a great show. We have a dunk team that comes out and do some really high-flying stunts, and it's a really great show.
So this is an all-star game with high school students.
Yes,
So how are they
yes.
selected?
Well, we send out some letters and see who wants to join, and we're very fortunate. We get a lot of support. It's really good. This year we're going to have the #1 booked halftime show in college basketball, Tyler's Amazing Balancing Act.
Oh, really?
He's going to come out and he is going to stun the crowd with some of the things he balances on his face. It's pretty remarkable.
And this year it's on Saturday, April 13th at the Kadoka School Gymnasium.
Yes, the new gymnasium. Yes, we're pretty excited to be in there.
Yes. Let's bring Corrine and James in here. Corey, I'm sorry. Corey, tell us your story with James.
James has duplication 15q. It's a duplication in the 11.1 to 13.2 section of the 15th chromosome.
And you are one of the recipients of Trevors Legacy.
James is.
Yes. Tell us about that.
It's been amazing. The support we get is fantastic. Not just financially, but they're there for us for anything that we need. If we need someone to talk to, they're there.
I think James is going to make a good judge someday if he keeps hitting the gavel here.
Trying.
He's doing really well. How is he doing? How old is
Good.
James?
He's 2.5. He's still small for his age and delayed, but lots of therapy is helping that.
And Roxanne, you're helping families like this, like James. Trevors Legacy does a lot for families in South Dakota. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
We just really want to help children on behalf of Trevor. That meant so much to him. So I knew his heart couldn't go on. So with him here, so even though he couldn't be here, I wanted to make sure that his heart went on and help children. I know that if he were here, he would be doing some really good things in this world. So
Wow.
Just trying to carry that
And he was 17 when he was killed.
17 when he was killed by a drunk driver.
How many years have you been doing this now?
This is our third year, and we have 5 recipient families thus far. So we're always looking for more. We just want people to know that we want to help. You know, like I said, insurance only goes so far, and we're here to help with the other things. And then we also have great emotional support. Many of our volunteers have gone through tragedy, loss. So they're a great support system. And then also our recipient families have been reaching out to each other because they know what the journey is like. So it's really a great support system for anybody that, you know, is going through these scary, uncertain times.
Absolutely. Tell us about your website.
Our website is trevorslegacyfoundation.org, and we have information on there from, you know, past Rock the Rim photos, some great photos. We have information as far as the MAD chapter of South Dakota. They're very near and dear to our hearts since it was a drunk driver that killed Trevor. You know, I like to say bringing awareness is very important because I don't want that driver's bad choice to rob the rest of us of the good Trevor would have done if he were still here. So even though he took his life, I'm not going to let that stop his heart.
It's a good thing that you're doing this. Thank you so much for being on Inside KELOLAND. Good luck with the Rock the Rim event. It sounds like fantastic.
Yes,
sounds like
it
a lot
should be
of fun.
a fun night. Thank you.
Well, coming up after the break, if you want to do more good in your community, there's another fundraiser that you can attend next week. How you can help out CASA when Inside KELOLAND returns. Welcome back to Inside KELOLAND. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and to bring awareness to this issue, CASA Sioux Falls is hosting a fundraiser next week. And joining me now is Stacy Teason, the Executive Director of the Sioux Falls Area CASA Program. Thanks for joining us, Stacy.
Thanks, Tom.
Before we get started, tell everybody, our viewers, about CASA and what it is.
CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. We are appointed by the judge to work with kids who are abused and neglected, which means they've been removed from the home because of some bad stuff going on. And really what we do is we work with we have volunteers. We always need volunteers, but volunteers work with families to help get the kids back home safely, or if that's not possible, then unfortunately a termination of parental rights might be something that gets advocated for over the course of a case. So when kids are removed, a petition gets filed at the courthouse, and then that activates our office, and we go every day to court, and we are always advocating for what's in the best interest of our kids.
Mm-hmm. You've seen an increase in the need.
Very much so. Over the last 3 years alone, we've seen a 60% increase in the number of kids assigned to our office. A 60% increase, and that's just not a statistic. Those are little kids that are getting hurt for a variety of reasons, but one of those reasons we're seeing a lot of is the meth use that's going on in the community.
And I know the last time we talked, I believe there was a waiting list for kids looking for a CASA volunteer.
We're always looking, and so when you look at the number of kids that came through our office last year was 542. We were able to serve about 50% of those with the CASA, so the rest of them are waiting for someone to step forward and really be that voice for them, because there's so many times they get lost in the system and they get told where they're going and what's happening to them. They don't get the opportunity to tell the judge. If they have a CASA, they do get that opportunity because we submit a report to the judge.
When we look at this map here, you see the green, that's CASA coverage.
Right.
Now you see a lot of white in there as well. What does that say?
That means that there's not enough coverage for the entire state. There are 6 CASAs and there are 66 counties, and you have blank spots in there where there is not a CASA currently operating. It's really important to me to share awareness for the other CASAs and the programs because they have the exact same issues. They're dealing with increased numbers, and they're also dealing with the same sort of things of trying to recruit volunteers and of course get funding. But as an association, we really need to work together to be able to make sure that we're getting our kids served.
And we're talking about child abuse here. What progress have you seen to try to have this prevention out there and maybe end child abuse?
You know, there's a lot of awareness. There's parenting classes out there. There's all kinds of therapeutic interventions that people can do, but sometimes the parents, well, all of the time, the history is that parents are really victims themselves. And before they've had time to deal with their own personal trauma, they end up, of course, having babies and then not really recognizing that they're really repeating the cycles that they experienced as kids themselves.
You know, as a CASA volunteer, and I know you keep saying that you need volunteers, there's got to be some relationships built with the child, the families perhaps. Can you just share some of those?
Yeah, it's very important because if you're not building those relationships, no one's talking to you. Then your report back to the judge is going to be pretty nominal. So really it is about building relationships. I like to talk about the parents a lot because they're crucial. I mean, we know that kids do better when they're with their biological families. So for us, our volunteers are really a cheerleader for moms and dads. And then for those kids, they're really in there. They meet with them at least twice a month. They get to know what they like, what they don't like. Sometimes kids disclose because they built those relationships with trust. And so they can really, truly have a good portrait of what's been going on in the home environment and make really solid recommendations back to the judge.
And of course, this is a nonprofit. I mean, you need to raise some money. You've got a big fundraiser coming up. Tell us about it.
We just decided a couple years ago that we really didn't want to spend money on an actual event, so we took this virtual. So for April 7th through the 13th, we're kind of just online. We're building awareness and sharing. You'll find us all over the community wearing red capes that look just like that. We want everyone to recognize that it takes a superhero to help change a kid's life, but every single one of us have the ability to do that. And that could be through donations and obviously through volunteering and just spreading awareness. If you have knowledge or you serve an organization that works with kids who've experienced abuse, you have the opportunity to help share that awareness. So wearing a red cape, I would love it.
Where do you get them?
Yeah. Well, you can get them at the CASA office at 300 North Dakota Avenue, and you can definitely get them if you make a donation. So it's going to be a lot of social media. Look for it. It'll be blitzing you everywhere. We're making a lot of coverage, hopefully that people will really be able to resonate with and say, hey, look at what I can do. Your $5, your $10. your awareness, signing up to volunteer, and it's a huge commitment. We're not just asking for a light commitment for the volunteers to do.
Yeah.
But overall, it's just that one opportunity for you to wear a cape and be a superhero.
And be a superhero.
That's right, Don. That's right.
All right, Stacy, thanks so much
Yes,
for being
thank you,
here.
Don.
Well, April is also Sexual Assault Awareness Month. To shed some light on the issue and help victims, the Sioux Falls Police Department and Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office will place these magnets on their patrol vehicles throughout the month. The hope is that this will help someone to speak out about sexual violence. After the break, we are recapping the flooding that impacted tens of thousands of people across KELOLAND this week. We're back after this. Welcome back. It's been a rough few weeks for South Dakota, Iowa, and Nebraska as dozens of communities start the long process of cleaning up after destructive floods. The Pine Ridge and Cheyenne River reservations were some of the hardest hit areas, with people being evacuated by helicopters and others stranded due to the flood waters. The Cheyenne River Reservation declared a state of an emergency last week. The National Guard was called in to help out in Pine Ridge. The Big Sioux River has also caused problems throughout eastern KELOLAND, from Watertown all the way down to Sioux City. Now, since the flooding started, thousands of emergency officials and volunteers have stepped up to help out wherever they can. In Sioux Falls, the Emergency Operations Center was the hub for all flood-related issues. It's now closed, but city leaders spent a lot of time there. KELOLAND's Kelly Volk looks at how teamwork played a role in responding to the high water.
Mornings at the Emergency Operations Center in Sioux Falls start with an update from the National Weather Service.
All right, good morning, everybody.
Then come the updates from the different agencies in the room. The room is packed with city officials, county and state agencies, potentially some at the federal level, and nonprofits.
It's just a place where everybody can come together, understand these are our objectives, these are our problems.
The Chief Executive Officer of the 211 Helpline Center is here for the meeting.
We receive all the direct information on what's happening with that disaster response, so we're able to tell our callers directly what information they need to know.
The Helpline Center is an important player in the flood response in communities across KELOLAND.
211 Helpline Center, what zip code are you calling from?
The nonprofit's phone line started getting busier about 2 weeks ago when the first round of flooding hit.
So we had people coming in, working some extra hours to make sure all of our calls, all the people contacting us were supported, and they were able to receive the information that they needed to respond to the flood.
Since March 13th, the Helpline Center has fielded more than 1,200 flood-related calls. The most popular type, people wondering how to volunteer.
And that was just so encouraging to hear people who just heard about the stories of people that had been affected by the flood and wanted to reach out and do what they could to make a difference for their community.
They also help people who are looking for flood-related information.
Sure, let me get that here for you.
Which helps take the pressure off of Metro Communications. They too have a seat at the table during the meetings at the Emergency Operations Center.
We get calls from stalled vehicles to water rescues to my basement's flooded, can you help?
Interim Director Jessica Mundahl says dispatchers took on even more responsibility in recent weeks by updating the list of road closures in the area.
Just a lot of coordinating resources, so we're calling to ask for barricades or calling this place because we need this service, and that takes a little bit more time than just the standard emergencies that we have.
It's one example of just how important teamwork can be in the event of a flood.
It's a lot of hard work, but it's very gratifying. And again, if we wouldn't have this in place, it would be chaos. And with this, everybody's working together, rowing the boat in the same direction. And when those incidents or issues or problems come up, we can solve them as a team, and it just makes it that much easier.
With Eye on KELOLAND, I'm Kelly Volk.
And while the EOC is closed, the team is still monitoring river levels and coordinating recovery efforts, damage assessments, and the cleanup. The Helpline Center is also transitioning into recovery mode. If you need assistance, just call 211. Well, flooding will continue not only in KELOLAND, but for many states. Meteorologist Scott Munt has a look at the rest of the country.
We've been showing you flood stories from within KELOLAND, but it extends even farther outside of our region. While a lot of the snow is now gone in southeast KELOLAND, it's a different story to our north as piles of snow continue across the landscape. That snow will take its time to melt and run off into area rivers. It's looking like a prolonged flooding situation for many. This graphic from the National Weather Service shows the extent of minor, moderate, and major flooding across the United States for the spring. Most of the major flooding has and will continue to occur in the Upper Plains and Midwest. As the rivers flow downstream, major flood concerns will follow the Missouri River into the Mississippi, as it is its major tributary. Recently, we've had a pretty good stretch of dry weather. The key going forward is to keep this dry weather around as the flooding continues.
Thanks a lot, Scott. And if you need help recovering from the floods, we have provided links at KELOLAND.com. You can also donate to the American Red Cross from our website. Just click on the Flooding in KELOLAND banner on our homepage. That's all the time we have for this week's Inside KELOLAND. You can find out more about today's topics online at KELOLAND.com. Be sure to join us every Sunday night following the 10 o'clock news right here on KELOLAND TV. I'm Don Jorgensen. Thanks for watching.